Welcome and welcome back to the Flow of Life Tarot. As you can see, we're outside again, taking in this beautiful nature around us. There is water flowing in the background. Hopefully you can hear it. I may have to project my voice a little louder the way I've got this set up. That's not my usual way of speaking when it comes to readings, as I tend to drop into this liminal space for a reading. Anyway, welcome, and let's dip into these energies. Things are a bit slower to upload at the moment, but I'm sort of trying to get them uploaded and online for you, so that you have access to these. Okay, I've already got. I was just going to ramble there. So take what resonates and leave the rest. You have this beautiful luminous warrior, and actually I also saw the wind here as well, so I'm going to take that. I'm seeing divine counterparts with this feminine and masculine, and when I see this kestrel or this falcon, this bird of prey that she has, it reminds me of the Nine of Pentacles, and also I think the Empress has a bird of prey, but most certainly the Nine of Pentacles. And then we've got 3, 6, which is 9, 6, 3. And this actually reminds me of the imagery from Lightseers Tarot. And which is it? Sort of like in general, I'm just seeing sort of Emperor energy, and yeah, I can see all the kings here really. Certainly King of Pentacles and the King of Wands. Yep, cups and swords as well. So we've got Emperor, Empress energy actually. Isn't that interesting? I hadn't quite clicked that. These things sort of tumble out. And we've got 3, 2, which is a 5, which is often considered a number of change. So that's interesting. So perhaps a change in your dynamic with masculine and feminine energies, or the divine sacred masculine and divine sacred feminine energies, which are also reflected in Divine Mother Earth, Sacred Father Sky, Yin Yang, hot cold. But most certainly seeing them in human form, this is, perhaps talking to relating and relationships and boundaries, I'm hearing, interestingly enough. So I wonder what that's around. Because if you look at this, the wind has no boundaries. She's like the wind. And this is a very masculine energy that radiates in its solar power. Of course, the sun represents the masculine, and the lunar, the moon, the feminine. So normally I get 3 cards, and I'm wondering, okay, this might, okay, I'm just going to go with these for a minute and see, because I feel that this is a pair which we don't need other cards for. So we're going to switch to the tarot to draw on some messages for these. Actually, I've got them all upside down. Hang on a sec. That's no good. So this is this divine counterpart energy. I'm switching tarot decks to the Wandering Star Tarot. Oop. Look, this just flipped out. 6 of Wands, success. So I feel like this is about the relationship between divine, sacred, feminine and masculine. So it's the space between, which is the relationship. And as I was saying that, these two flipped out. This deck has the extra 2 cards, so there's 80. One is yes and one is no. So this is the Mother Star saying yes, and that's, I feel, to affirm that this is about the relationship. Not about you, not about them, not about purely what those energies represent, but the relationship and the dynamic energy between those 2 elements. And as if by magic we have the 2 of Wands here, and because she carries, these 1 in each hand, it's sort of, again, symbolizing, say, a feminine and a masculine that's being held, and it's the relationship between. And here we have plans, partnership and influence. So yes, but whatever it is, I feel it's successful. So I feel perhaps there's a corner that's been turned in terms of either your actual relationship or your relationship to how you relate. That's an interesting one, okay? Your relationship to how you relate. So if you think of a relationship, it takes two people, they've both coming from their own angles and their own sides and perspectives, and they're bringing something to the relationship, and together they create it. But it takes two to tango, right? But if you've already got certain views about how relationships are or should be, or you've got certain patterns and programs that you haven't questioned or perhaps need reviewing, or either of both of you do, which is highly likely, that's totally human and normal, then that's also going to affect the relationship, which is this thing that you create together. Yeah, bottom of the deck we've got the Star card, which is very healing. Guidance, inspiration. So yes, okay, so we've definitely got confirmation this is about how you relate. What else do we need to know? Queen of Wands. Okay, well, wind and air certainly fuels fire. The Queen of Wands here. Okay, so this is interesting. This is how you relate, perhaps, with an air and fire kind of energy. Yeah. And as ever, you know, we need a balance in life. We need to balance all the elements, and sometimes we need to, you know, it's that Buddhist saying, isn't it? All things in moderation, including moderation. So things do have to tilt and adjust and lose balance sometimes, otherwise they become stagnant. There are many elements at play. Yeah. So as we got this Queen of Wands for the feminine and how the feminine energy relates, I wanted to get one for the masculine, but in the process, whilst shuffling, before I kind of got there in my head, these two flipped out, which I think is quite interesting, which is why I went just down that rambling about balance. And just thinking about the Queen of Wands being the, and I'm saying air because we've got wind here representing the feminine. So we've got wind and fire, air and fire. So too much air, and you know, and the fire is just goes crazy, as we know, like wildfires, just rip through everything and destroy everything. Not enough, and there won't be a fire. Not enough air, and there won't be a fire. There's a lot of smoke here as well. So this, you know, it's that triangle, isn't it, with fire? You need the fuel source, you need the air, and it's a triangle. I don't know why I can't think of the third thing. Maybe the fuel is two elements separated, but you need the three in balance, otherwise fire won't burn. So if you have a wet wood or damp, whatever it is you're burning, then it creates a lot of smoke and it won't be a clean burn. I'm all about clean air, clean energy, fresh inspiration, understanding. You've heard me mention that a few times when I come across a nice sword court card. So something about, I don't know, I'm almost getting like burning bridges as well. And it's important, this is why I kept these, because the judgment, they came together. So it's like, it's not just making a judgment call, there is something about this that your soul, your higher self, your true heart of hearts is bringing to your attention about how you relate, that actually is putting you in this situation. Yeah, there's that saying, isn't it, like making a rod for your own back, or yeah, it's like sort of digging your own hole. But in this sense, I'm getting like burning, burning up like good potential relationship by too much damp wood, or too much air, or not enough air, suffocation. So there's like some adjustment that's required, and it's a big one, it's an important one, and you're ready to do it because you've got the Judgment, which is a major arcana. So you are ready to make this adjustment so that you're not, so that you are truly in your Queen of Wands energy and not in this overbearing, flaming bonfire. And then also, there's a kind of chicken and egg thing here with this card. For me, always I see like the witch wound, because obviously it's a woman being burnt at a stake, which is pretty darn witchy in terms of the I was going to say the folklore, but there's written records about witch hunts and things through the ages. So yeah, chicken and egg, it's almost like the way of relating has either been too much fire or too much air, not enough, and then either because of the witch wound there's been an imbalance, or it's a little bit cyclical. Then simply just being out of balance causes and activates the witch wound. Either way, it's fine, it's coming up to the surface to be seen. Okay, once again, that's what the Judgment card is. On the traditional Rider-Waite, you see the people coming out of their coffins, the dead are awoken. It's like patterns of the subconscious are awoken to be seen, and once they're seen, they can be witnessed, held, heard, and integrated, and that naturally releases the energetic bond or antagonism or drivers that often occur, what do occur with subconscious patterning. I hope you're following the thread of this. It's sort of like a twofold thing, but it's very positive. And look how, I kind of like how you've got these elements behind. She's got these divine wings of transformation with this butterfly here, and transformations are obviously kind of scorpionic, plutonic energy. And then behind her, she's got these 10 wands fanning out in a similar way. So there's almost like an angelic celebration of this awareness. And it's taking responsibility for it. It's not projecting that onto other. It's noticing where that resonates internally, no matter how unseen and how unconscious. It is literally the blind spot. If you're a driver, doesn't matter how many mirrors you've got. Well, maybe it's different now with technology, but there is a blind spot when you're driving. You've got your wing mirror, you've got your rear view mirror, and let's say you're kind of pulling out to overtake or move into a different lane. You have to look over your shoulder as well, because there is, there's a blind spot. You can measure it, and it's that thing, isn't it? We can see something and recognise something in someone else so clearly. And then we have our own blind spots where we're completely oblivious. And then when we do see it, it can be a full spectrum of either like horrendously uncomfortable and unbearably challenging to really kind of like face it and go, yeah, okay, all right, that's me. That's what I did. That's what I've been doing. That's my pattern. It's not who I am, right? But it's in there. Like I did that. I made that choice. But you also realise that it was unconscious. You didn't know there was a blind spot. You don't know what you don't know, do you? So you can't, there's no point pouring shame and guilt and chastising and criticising and whatever else, because it doesn't serve anything either. So yeah, this is quite, I hope you're following this. It's really about I really feel strongly, I don't know why I'm stumbling over my words, I feel strongly this is very much about the divine sacred feminine taking responsibility for all their stuff and not projecting it onto the toxic masculine or the healthy masculine or any masculine. Okay, because if you think about it, and if you believe in, I don't know, parallel lifetimes or previous lifetimes, we have been all, we've been every gender, we've been every this, that and the other. So, if we scream and shout about how terrible the patriarchy is, and isn't it terrible all these people are burning witches, and if you're a divine feminine, you may well have been incarnate as one of those witch hunters that were, ordained by the church to go and hunt down men, women and children that were considered to be other. You may well have been one of those in a former lifetime. Okay, so it gets to a point where you have to go, right, well, this is me, this is my life, I'm experiencing X, Y, Z, and I have all I have control over is right now. There's nothing else. Can't unwrite other things in the past, but you can take responsibility for right now, and that can be as simple as, looking in the mirror and going, right, okay, this is me. Okay, I've either put too much fuel onto the fire here, I fanned the flames, I've somehow done something, and seeing it so that you can remove yourself. And I feel it's going to be successful endeavour, but it can be a bit of a hard pill to swallow. And none of us like to be told, it's all very well we see someone else's blind spot, but we don't like someone pointing out our blind spot. So I'm not trying to poke the bear. I'm not trying to dig into anything painful. I'm not trying to negate anything. You're yourself and your own story. So if there's misunderstanding, it's not intentional. It's not your fault. It's not my fault, right? Things can activate and trigger wounds completely unintentionally. And when that kind of situation happens, we can use that to take a breath and say, okay, this has actually triggered something else that I didn't know I was sort of avoiding dealing with. So you can, use that as an opportunity to do a bit of self-care work and take care. So I feel this is especially with the Six of Wands here, I feel this is very much a reciprocity thing. It's about this relating dynamic, and it's both parties so fully taking responsibility for themselves that they can grow together. Yes, you can be vulnerable, you don't have to be perfect, everyone's got feet of clay, but not get into the toxic dance of your stuff projected onto them, and then and then them responding to that, that kind of swirl that, let's face it, that kind of, you can see it in dramas and history and like Shakespeare even. It's the story of humanity. So again, it's not a judgment. Right, okay. Now that's incredibly a lot of information there, but I feel it was important somehow. I'm going to get one card for what I'm calling the Sacred Masculine here with this Luminous Warrior. Okay, I'm just connecting with the energy because I've been very much in this energy here. So it's that, there we go. Didn't take long. So I'm seeing with this Queen of Wands, that's the Divine Feminine, and so with the Divine Masculine, I've got the Magician, which usually is a masculine figure, and again, he's the manifester and the sort of maker and the creator, working with the four elements, working with above and below, working with Divine Sacred Mother Earth, working with Sacred Father Sky. And drawing those elements together. There's also something young and playful about the Magician. There's different aspects. I was about to say he isn't fully integrated, but it's more that he's got different elements, different facets, and so in conjunction with other cards or other energies, different parts can come through. Sometimes manipulative is what I'm thinking with this. So like an unhealthy version is that manipulative. It's that sleight of hand, literally a magician, sleight of hand, tricks, cards up the sleeve, sometimes nefarious intentions, again, interesting. It's a bit like this this story with the divine sacred feminine, which kind of brought back to the witch wound thing, and then that's why we get all these sort of going back to this, the kinds of derogatory terminology or words that will be used against women, whether it's men or women using them. It's that kind of story, like, ugh, she's crazy, she's this, she's that, she's the other. And likewise, there'll be those sorts of things that are spoken of and said about men. These are broad brushstrokes, but we're feeling into this. This reading is about this relationship between the two. But in the positive, it's the magician in the healthy expression is this amazing, abundant, can manifest all sorts of beautiful things into the world. So it's like that. It's again like the thing with the fire, energy, tools, swords, blades, axes, knives, equipment, machinery. They can all be beautiful things that can do great things. Fire can keep us warm, provide food, and also cleanse as well and purify. But also they can destruct and destroy. Isn't that funny? And cause huge pain and suffering, right? So there's something about this magician energy. It's about, it's about relating. So, so it's like the feminine, when she's relating well, in a healthy way, it's the healthy version of the Queen of Wands. When it's an unhealthy, toxic way, it's that kind of, itch with a bee kind of energy, and not in an empowered, healthy way, because there's also a good version of that, and there's also a toxic version of that. But in that sort of narcissistic, entitled, antagonistic, and clawing and suffocating kind of toxic version. If you think about what it'd be like standing right next to a bonfire, it's hot, but you're also going to be choking on the fumes. So this is interesting that this reading is drawing out, potentially what can be in the positive expression, but also being aware of the negative expression. I'll see whether that will follow through with this magician, or whether we've already got that information already held purely in that card, being a major arcana. So the focus is, how does the masculine relate? Oh my God! Okay, so we've got the divine counterpart. Right. This is very interesting. So the Queen of Wands in her healthy expression. Yeah. And obviously in the healthy expression of the masculine, we've got the magician, but these are the counterparts here. Okay, so we have got the story with this magician, like this judgment and the Ten of Wands kind of version of what can be a healthy expression or an unhealthy, toxic expression. I know I'm repeating myself. It's because there's some very fine, nuanced threads here as well. And words and things said can sometimes be misleading. So I'm just sort of feeling into this so as to get to that kind of fine. It's a bit like silk. There's something fine here. There's a real finessing of understanding. Often we'll know things and we can get the gist of it, but there's more nuanced absorption of that, which requires that sort of finessing and that sort of reiteration. And obviously, having myself gone to art school and written all those bloody essays about iterations and reiterations and the craft and the process, that's in my language and in my processing anyway. It is this finessing process. Okay, so we've got two major arcanas here, and again, there's the toxic version and the healthy version of the Emperor energy. And again, much like we had this story with the feminine, it's the buck stops here and taking responsibility kind of energy, being well aware that the toxic version of the masculine can be manipulative and self-serving and working with the elements just for the sheer kind of greed and indulgence and self gratification kind of energy. And again, that entitled kind of energy, which I was trying to describe here, but it's a different. I guess they're similar energies, they're just expressed differently in maybe slightly different words. And like I said, this can be like the itch with a B, this can be like an ick with a D. I feel like I've invented two new things there. I've never heard anyone say that. Itch with a B and ick with a D. And when you get the ick factor, you know it, don't you? You know it. Even if they're not a bad person, but suddenly you get the ick and that's it, okay, done. I'm out. Which is when people kind of burn up or burn bridges. So that's interesting, And like I said, it takes two to tango. So this is interplay, this dance of light and shadow, which we've got here. Beautiful plants. Wow. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Look how many major arcanas we've got here, and these are all representative of the divine masculine. I think the thing is that because for eons and I don't know how long, the patriarchy has been a thing, and we are all still just unraveling ourselves from that. Habits, patterns, unconscious bias. Some more so than others. Some weren't as entrenched in it. It varies on so many things, where you're from, your culture, your background, family, history, your experiences. So the extent to which we are still unraveling or untangling or loosening the ties of patriarchy. I'm not talking about men, I'm talking about patriarchy, which is damaging to both men and women. It's just damaging to humans, right? But the problem with the patriarchy, or the kind of toxic patriarchal energy that we've existed with for so long, is that it takes some of the best qualities of human nature, which is honour, and tradition is something of value, roots, tribal, community, things that are really in your DNA, things that really draw on that, on what it means to be human and part of humankind. And honour is a huge part of that. Integrity is a huge part of that. Courage, bravery, leadership, capacity, being able to take decisions, especially in hard moments, in difficult knife edge moments, crises moments, being able to build and gather and organise and create structure and stability and balance. And these are all amazing human qualities. And the thing is, with the kind of toxic, I'm going to call it toxic patriarchy, just to emphasise that, is that it's all of those things, but somehow gone rotten and just gone skewed or become neurotic and fear-based and controlling and cruel and driven by other things. So it's taking the energy of honour, which is amazing, and then sort of harnessing it with guilt and blame and shame and humiliation in such a way so that any natural sense of honour in you is then distorted and controlled by the toxic patriarchy, which creates this cognitive dissonance, right? Because you, on the one sense, you feel you're doing something that's for a greater good, for a higher good. It's a worthy cause, whether that's fighting for your country, whether that's working in the extreme emergency services, whether that's working a crappy job which you absolutely hate, but it's because it's for your family, or for the family that you've created and grown, or even to support your parents or grandparents or siblings. There's and again, doing something that's honourable, that holding things together for the ones you love and that you care for. But we're not meant to die on the sword. It's like that. It's that honour being, it's freeing ourselves from, okay, yes, it's honourable doing these things, but they can be done with an energy of not sacrifice and burden, which is the Ten of Wands is all about, but with an energy of empowered. Okay, do you know what? I actually might not like this job, but I'm doing this right now because it works right now for what I need, and I know that I'm going to move onwards and upwards from this, and I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. And that's what happens with this entitlement energy, whether it's masculine or feminine. It's just a human thing, is that once we feel sorry for ourselves, we then feel entitled to feel entitled, and then that's when we get petty, and then that's when we get mean and nasty, and we go, well, it's all right for them, and blah blah blah, and I've done this and I've tried that. So I'm so really strongly, I feel that in terms of the masculine energy, you know, that version of the story is that there's these amazing, phenomenal qualities that we associate with the masculine. It doesn't mean that the feminine doesn't have them, but we tend to associate them more so with masculine or masculine roles. Again, probably sort of slightly, I don't know. Let's face it, men and women are different, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm not trying to de-gender people. Is that a thing? Or I don't know if that's a thing. Again, this is very nuanced. It does feel like kind of drawing and weaving with silk. It's a very fine thing. It's not a this or a that. It's nuanced energies that are extremely powerful. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, okay, well, I won't do that then. It's like a real finessing. And did that come up earlier about that balance thing? I think that was, yeah, that came out earlier. So this is amazing. This is beautiful kind of insight into the feminine and the sort of feminine story of relating, and the masculine story of relating, and how there can be the toxic, unhealed, unintegrated way of relating, and I feel this is coming to light right now, and it is like this. You see all these shadows with the plants. It's very soft and nuanced. It's not a cut and dry thing. The shadows sort of move around a bit. They're not to be feared. It's just kind of like as things move a bit, some stuff is more seen, and then it's this beautiful flow. Okay, so it can all be welcomed and held with grace. And you see she has the third eye at the crown here. I don't know if you can see that. So it is guided by that higher intuition, that higher wisdom. This isn't meant to be fear-based energy, or these messages aren't coming from a place of fear, they're coming from a place of empowerment. But words can sometimes trip things up. Okay, I'm going to see if we need any more. Okay, I'm just shuffling. Yeah, I just wanted to see if there's something about this Six of Wands, which is talking about success. So whatever this process is, it is successful. And look, we've got these words: victory, glory, triumph. You know, those are things that you'd associate with, like I was talking about, honour and integrity and those sorts of things. Now, this came out when I was thinking about this Six of Wands, the King of Pentacles, which is lovely, grounded, stable, nourishing, and that is that healthy masculine energy again, which is reliable, visionary and generous, as it says here, but that can be masculine and feminine, but this specifically, this Pentacles is very abundant. And then this flipped out, and before I was sort of ready to take one, and I just thought, okay, well, I'll pop it back in and keep shuffling. And then it came out again, so like, okay, this definitely is coming through. So part of this process is, again, honouring that grief. I think when things come up, and it's completely natural and inevitable, and when things do come to light and we do see things and we go, aha, like this judgment call, or this awareness of how things have been, or how we've been tangled by our programming or whatever else, there can be this sense of loss and grief of, oh God, all these months, years, decades, whatever it is, wasted thinking things were a certain way, and then acting and behaving and thinking and feeling because we thought things were a certain way, and then realizing, oh, okay. It's that that old saying, it's laboring under a there's a quote, and it goes something like laboring under a misconception or misinterpretation or a misunderstanding. So it's like you're working hard thinking it's one thing, and then someone puts the light on and you're like, oh, it's over there, I thought it was over here, and I was determined and focused and blah blah blah. And it's a bit like taking the long route because you feel you have to, and then someone saying, oh, you do know you can go that way, and you're like, what? That's just like 3 steps, bump bump bump. These are just examples. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with taking the long route or the short route. It's very contextual with these things. It does vary. Life is big. Wow, this is an incredibly long reading. I didn't expect that, but I feel like with this Six of Wands, what it's pointing out in terms of the success and this victory with this masculine and feminine energy, and you can do your parts and you contain both, so you can work on both of these energies. You don't need to ask your partner or future partner to kind of deal with their witch wound or deal with their manipulative, toxic magician energy. You take responsibility for both of those energies within yourself. We contain the seeds for all of it, okay? I mean, in doing that, and then you'll see that reflected in your environment more and more so. So in terms of the success of this process, which you're balancing both, it's by being grounded, by nourishing, by having that expansive kind of King of Pentacles energy, you're really allowing for the softness of these emotions to flow. You know, there's something very beautiful in a masculine that can stand strong and steady and firm and grounded in his being and his presence, and truly allow emotion to flow and the tears to fall. There's absolute grace in that, and I think it's because for so long it's not been allowed. That's, men, boys told not to feel anything, to not have emotions, and weren't even allowed to for so long. So that's why this is such a beautiful energy. So it's allowing that inner masculine, whatever gender you are, to be this strong, nurturing, nourishing King of Pentacles provider that's stable and reliable and generous and warm-hearted and flow with emotions. That's sort of key to this Six of Wands success of this relating energy. Yeah. Okay, and then we've got the Empress at the bottom, we've got the Sun sticking out, and we've got the Hermit that just fell out. So again, whenever the Hermit comes up, it is that sort of going within. So this is just pointing again to bringing all of this energy inwards, for inner reflection of self, and not sort of demanding that other engages in this. It sort of depends. If you're in a relationship already and you already have that kind of way of communicating without it being a game of pushing buttons or a weaponizing of these things, then you're probably already kind of doing that work together. But really it's best that we kind of take responsibility for our own side of the fence, right, in life. Or you can, obviously, I guess it depends on your relationship, which is what this is all about, or your relationship to relating. You can communicate and say, I'm working on something, I'm figuring something through. It's not about cutting off and abandoning other or self. Okay, is there anything else? King of Pentacles and Five of Cups. Six of Wands. The energy of relationship. There we go, Six of Cups, which is a beautiful energy to have with the Six of Wands, because Six of Wands talks, Six of Pentacles is reciprocity. Six of Wands is victory. So I kind of like seeing the Six of Cups as being like an emotional version of the Six of Pentacles, of reciprocity. Often it talks about sort of reflecting back on, it also has an element of nostalgia, which I don't think nostalgia is necessarily a healthy energy, but a healthy version of that is looking back at childhood relationships or friendships or good memories, good times, with that sense of appreciation, love and a gratitude. So it's what's the healthiest version of this is the appreciation and gratitude for the good times, even if they were kind of relationships and people that are no longer in your life or in your world. You can still look back with fondness and appreciation and gratitude for all that you had at that time together, whatever time you had together. And even if some of them were not so fun and great at the time, but you know, there may have been some really horrible but valuable lessons that you gained about yourself, so you can appreciate something about the experience, even if you don't, you know, even if that person is not something you want to consider, but you can view the value that you've gained, and in yourself. You can value the growth within yourself and appreciate yourself for having gotten through various things, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm covering all bases here. And again, yes, having these two cards sort of overseeing things, the Two of Wands and the Mother Star, I feel that's saying that this is quite possibly already occurring. So it's, you know, perhaps you've been aware of this, and perhaps it's bringing it a bit more into focus and giving it a bit more sharpening of the lens. Like this may, every chance that this has already been going on with you for however long, and maybe there's either another layer of it, or it's just focusing even sharply, and maybe this is just a sort of confirmation of that. I'm going to see if there's another mystical shaman oracle card for these. This is quite a deep dive, this energy, so you may need to replay things to get a sense of some of this. Hopefully the water isn't drowning out. Okay, I was going to see if I can get more, but this is what came. I was just shuffling a bit more because I was feeling I could get a couple more as well. And again, I feel like the Six of Wands and the other positive cards that we have here saying that this is an unfolding, this is a process. You know, all those petals and that blooming, they occur, it's an unfolding slowly. And even the process of the lily reaching the surface is that itself is a process as well. It goes through all that muck and grime and dirt of the pond, and it comes up and it's absolutely pure. We have the dragonfly here, which represents sort of like moving between worlds and realms. So I'm seeing this sort of balancing, and again the Four, which I feel is this sort of stability, like the King of Pentacles. I think this is affirming that this is a beautiful process and not a fear-based one, and not one that has to be challenging and traumatic and grueling, and you know, just breathe. It's always valuable to remember that when you've been doing some insight work or some shadow work, or when you get an aha moment, hold it with compassion, you know. It's easy, we can see parts of ourselves where we've either been like an ick with a D, or we've been like an itch with a B. Oh, that's interesting, yeah, completion. these are cycles that are completing for so many of us. And again, you see that heart in the center, so it's like a heart-based completion. I mean, there's every chance that you could have been doing this kind of work for months, years, weeks, decades, or this could be brand new to you. So that's either way, you're good, you know. Well, these, yeah, several cards that kept jumping out. So again, I feel this goes with this completion, this medicine wheel, which to me also points to the Wheel of Fortune, which carries the Scorpio, Taurus and Leo, Aquarius axis. But I also see the North Node here as well. But I can see a cheetah or is that, no, panther? A snake, an eagle, a hummingbird, representing these sort of different energies from the four corners of the world. The medicine wheel talks, is very closely associated with the compass that guides the north, the south, the east, the west, and those energies. Yeah, and again, this is just thinking about the medicine wheel. This is pointing to this is a very healing process. So the fact that you're doing this work on how you relate to your relationships, or how you engage in relationships, or how you have relationships, or how you create relationships, it is very powerful and healing work. And as you know, that which you do for yourself, you do for the greater good, for all of the collective of humanity, and for the universe. So it's very powerful stuff. Yeah. And this came through as well as I was thinking about that. And again, I feel this is like the sun is shining on you. This is good fortune. This is, again, it's that masculine energy, the sun, the solar disc. Yeah, bottom of the deck, magic. It's that feminine energy. So it's all very nurturing and nourishing and encouraging and positive. It could be, especially something like the judgment here and the other things we've talked about, it could be there's some real powerful stuff that you see, perhaps within yourself, or reflected back, and enough to make you to sort of take a step within, take a breath and feel within your body and feel, okay, yeah, it's like it's noticing where you've been holding your breath or feeling tension, or okay, this is interesting. This sort of showed itself earlier, and I just made a note of it in my mind. Oh look, and we've got Wild Woman. So again, thinking about this divine feminine energy, it is being aware of all the archetypes of the divine sacred feminine, and integrating all of them. It's not shooing them or shaming them, or this one's good or that one's bad. I often associate this one with Lilith, and we have like very negative stories about her, but also, if you dig a deeper, you find really empowering, beautiful stories. And I think perhaps more so than with the male archetype or the divine sacred masculine, there is more polarization of the feminine. It's either the perfect, squeaky clean, good girl archetype, or the wholesome goddess, or it's the very dark, destructive goddess, which is rejected. So it's gathering all these selves back to self, and because I saw the Wild Woman as well, this sort of affirms that sort of drawing all these feminine archetypes and owning them all within ourselves. So it is, again, back to that reference of the Ten of Wands. It's owning that archetype. Own the archetype yourself. draw that home and take responsibility for that archetype internally, and then you're not going to engage with battles within self or other regarding that energy. You can allow that to flow through you, like the and this came up as well before. So I thought that was quite interesting. The sorcerer energy showed itself again, and this wild woman, which is this integration of all aspects of cells. And I saw this with the sort of very masculine energy of the holy mountain. I also see it as sort of a Capricornian, Saturnian energy, in that very healthy expression of reaching this summit. And they're at the very top. I think they're meditating. So that is the summit. And look at how big that solar disc is behind. So there's a humility as well. Often we accept the male ego as being very big and expresses and showy, but the most beautiful and attractive of divine sacred masculine energy within any of us is that humility in that immense strength. Sorry, I'm trying to bring it into focus. So again, these messages, and look, that's right next to the sun. These are very beautiful energies. The energies are now sort of repeating themselves and reiterating. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's just a beautiful sort of signal that we're on focus here, we're on point. And I just picked this up at the bottom of the deck, the staff, which I feel a bit like the arrow. It is saying that you are on point and we are walking in the right direction with this sort of work. And I just picked up the bottom of this Knight of Cups. So yeah, we're walking in the right direction with the work that we're doing. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else you need. This is a really long reading. It's probably the longest I've done in quite a while, actually. I know it's a long reading, but I'm going to get you one moon card. Moon card? Okay, there we go. Meditate and contemplate, which is new moon in Pisces. And we are in Virgo season right now. In a couple of weeks, we will have a full moon in Pisces. So that's beautiful. So that's drawing on the energies of that dynamic, Virgo Pisces, which is 6th house, 12th house on the zodiac wheel. Yeah, very beautiful. And we do actually have the North Node, South Node still transiting, and will be for some time, through Virgo Pisces axis as well. Currently have Saturn in Pisces, and as you know, we have the Sun in Virgo right now. The Moon may have already moved. I think chances are the moon's already moved since we had a new moon into Libra, or maybe even further by now. Yes. Okay, so I hope that's interesting, exciting, empowering, enlightening, and that you can take what resonates and leave the rest. And thank you for being here and bringing your energy, and thank you for your time and appreciation. And I'll catch up with you soon. Okay, take care. Bye.